No. Come on, where is it?
Dave, it's your Idaho Central app here. Any chance you're missing a debit card? Let's get that taken care of for you. With ICCU's card control, you can turn any card off with the tap of your finger.
You got it.
And back on again. Out, 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 out. The closest Idaho Central Credit Union branch is in your pocket.
It's the fall kickoff sale at Lithia Ford of Boise. We're going all the way so you can score more for your trade-in and trade up to a new Ford truck or SUV today. Visit Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
It's time for Ball Talk with Sanford and Johnny. From what's happening on the Blue at Boise State to the Mountain West and beyond. The biggest storylines, the best guests, and most outlandish opinions from two dudes who eat, sleep, and breathe college football. All Bronco Nation news broadcasts come from the Western Collective studios. Head down to Western Collective's locations in Garden City or downtown Boise to try some of their delicious beers, including the Horseshoe Golden Ale, the first beer to support an NIL collective. You can also pick up any of Western Collective's beers or vodka seltzers at most major retailers in Idaho. Ball Talk with Sanford and Johnny, featuring former Boise State quarterback and longtime coach Mike Sanford, and KTIK 95.3 FM The Ticket's Johnny Mallory on Bronco Nation News.
What's going on? Ball Talk. This is episode 14. Season 2.
Is that
where we are, dude?
Is that accurate? Look around.
We're at the Fiesta Bowl media room. They just finished the whole whole deal that they do here.
So the entire Penn State program, every player, every coach was here at 8:30.
Yep.
And then the entire Boise State program, coaches, everybody,
trainers, everybody.
It was awesome.
Was here, man.
And now it's just us.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a couple guys that love talking ball.
Appreciate you guys. Ball Talk BNN from the Media Hotel here in Scottsdale, getting you ready for the Fiesta Bowl. Mike Sanford just gets in town this morning, coming off the radio national broadcast call of the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl.
Da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah,
It's the D-O-double G.
Oh,
it was so fun.
Doggy style? Yeah. I love that.
Whoa!
Album.
I didn't.
One of my favorite
pause.
albums.
I did not see that coming.
1993.
No, it was an absolute joy to work that game, and I didn't know what to expect. Snoop Dogg, he's done incredible work as an ambassador for the United States of America at the Olympics.
Yeah.
So you're assuming like he's going to probably be pretty good. I don't know. I've been a part of a lot of different bowls, and I'm going to tell you right now, the Fiesta Bowl is the class of all class in terms of how they do every single event, and you'll see
really
that as this week.
impressive.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And we got sweet hoodies, like the media members. I mean, just us lowly media members got swag, man.
Wow.
Like this is too good.
Nice. I mean, I'm going to wear the hell out of this thing.
Oh,
People in Boise, you're going to see Ballgame wearing his Fiesta Bowl sweatshirt.
Oh, you have like food stains on it. You'll wear it 7 consecutive days without a good wash.
Mustard stains on there.
Oh yeah, nice glizzy, kind of glizzy leaks. But the thing about the Snoop Dogg Bowl was Snoop Dogg himself and his team were incredible. Snoop Dogg went everywhere. He was in the broadcast booth. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get him. He was on the national TV broadcast with the
radio
CW.
Always gets screwed there.
It's all right. It's all right. You accept your role and you shine in whatever role that you're given. But Snoop he went to both locker rooms and gave pregame speeches.
Oh God.
And so I run into a friend of mine, Matt Mummy, who's the offensive coordinator.
Hal's
He's
son?
Hal Mummy, the inventor of the air raid. His son, I see him an hour and a half before the game. He comes up to me, he goes, "How cool is this, man?" He goes, "I just got a selfie with Snoop Dogg." And I'm like, and he told me, he's like, Snoop went around and took a selfie with every single player, every single coach, and like interacted with them.
What?
And then the coolest thing that he did is he went in, gave a speech to each team, and both head coaches asked if hey, Snoop, you want to call the first play of the game? And he did. He called the first play. So he told Chuck Martin, and we were around. So my broadcast partner, Brian Haney, who's the voice of the Kansas Jayhawks, he was in the locker room. He just said, "I just stuck my way in there" when Snoop was giving his speech to the Miami of Ohio Redhawks.
Oh, sweet.
And Snoop goes, Coach Chuck Martin asked Snoop, "Coach, you want to call the first play?" And we have 5 options for you. And they had a sheet ready for him. He goes, "I don't need that." He goes, I'm going to go 5 wide, straight empty, and we're going to throw the ball over the top. He said, "We're going to take it over the top." And they did. They went 5 wides. Like, I'm calling the game, and I'd heard this information ahead of the game. Like, sure enough, they're in 5 wides. Yeah. And then Chuck Martin called the same play to start the second half. And it was just such a fun event. He did the same thing with CSU, apparently. But Snoop Dogg was amazing. Tucson was a great host. But, man, this is all about college football playoffs. We keep saying the words Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah.
This is the CFP, brother.
It's weird, huh?
Yeah. Like, I coached in a Fiesta Bowl.
How many?
3.
Okay.
But I haven't coached in a CFP.
No.
And so it hits a little differently.
Dude, that's the thing. James Franklin talked about it. You'll hear from a couple of Boise State coaches on the special edition of Ball Talk, but the fact that this is, because you've been to so many bowl games and there is an experience that comes with a bowl game. I love everything you just said about Snoop Dogg, but you can't let the DOGG call the first play in the Fiesta Bowl.
The stakes are a little higher.
As smart as he is, as smart as a football guy Snoop is, the SYFL, you probably coached kids who grew up playing in that league.
There were 9 players in the game that grew up playing in the Snoop Youth Football League.
Thank you. Snoop has paid for basically every underprivileged kid who wants to play football in Southern California has paid for them over the last 20 years or so. Jeremy McNichols is a veteran of the SY.
Deshaun Jackson, who just got a head coaching job.
Wow.
I mean, he's part of that. He was one of the OGs of the Snoop Dogg, football takeover.
Yeah, so Snoop has been, you said, ambassador for just America, but like an ambassador for football.
See what you did there, Johnny.
He's done that too. That was for you in the Fiesta Bowl. But yeah, you can't do that in the Fiesta Bowl. You can't let Snoop take a selfie with every single player on the team before the Fiesta Bowl like Snoop did. But so this is different. Yeah, but maybe even in a prior Fiesta Bowl, you might even be a little more willing to have that type of fun and to soak a couple things in. Pause for a selfie, the OC and Snoop Dogg. But, before a playoff game, the mindset has to change. And you could tell that here today, I think, Coach, that James Franklin and Spencer Danielson are ready to go win this thing.
Yeah, there's a separation between the bowl games and the 12 teams that made the CFP.
Which is cool.
And those games, the stakes are incredibly high. Everybody is investing millions upon millions to the tune of upwards of $20 million for some of these rosters. So you talk about ROI, return on investment. Every play is going to matter. Every bit of prep is going to matter. And I talked to a bunch of the Boise State coaches here, and they even talked about how strange it was that the entire team, every single assistant coach, was here for a media day. When I coached in 3 Fiesta Bowls as a coordinator, I believe for 2 of those, it was just the coordinators and the head coach and about 4 select players that came to media day. So this was just a whole lot different. It was just, you could tell, they had already had their meetings this morning. They had this kind of hour and a half, 2-hour time window that was, for media. And then now they got to go practice, which it does get you off your rhythm. Both teams, this is not just one team, but it gets off your normal rhythm of prep. And I thought that was something that I felt from having been in the shoes of a lot of these coaches that they were I would say struggling with, but like, this is weird. This really breaks up your normal Thursday routine, which today is a Thursday on the football calendar.
Yeah, they say for them it's Thursday. And I talked to a couple of the coaches, and they were even confused. Like, what is it, Sunday? Like, J-Mo was like, it's Sunday. I'm like, yeah, I know, man. It's Thursday for me. That's how they run their thing here. We will hear from the wide receiver coach. Let's get to Matt Miller here in a second. And after we go with Matt Miller, had some interesting things to say today at the presser, at the media day. Afterwards, let's get our overall thoughts, Coach, especially yours. Maybe your thoughts coming into this game and what has changed in that regard after getting a chance to meet and greet and talk to both Penn State and Boise State. So let's get that Matt Miller thing going. Do you want to
so Matt, it was so great for me to see Matt Miller. He's a guy that I had a chance to coach in 2014. And so I actually stumbled over the dates of, ironically, I said January 31st. So I apologize. I'm new to this interview thing. I've been on the other side of the microphone. So it was a little bit different, but Matt Miller played for us in 2014 and he's had a tremendous task. And so I asked him specifically, and we'll get to this in this interview, about the challenge of, coaching a receiver group that is very talented. That I saw Prince Strawn walking in. Dude, I'm like, I want that guy on my team.
That's what Cutter said. That in the NFL, that's what they want him to look like, Prince.
Yep, and the challenges of being such a committed ground attack, which is exactly the right decision in every way, because you have the best player on planet Earth that's a college athlete in Ashton Jeanty. But how do you manage the room? How do you so it was a really fun conversation, and we'll let our guy Jaden here roll that. Matt Miller will be appearing as a coach 10 years to the day after he was essentially a coach, because he was injured. He was up in the box next to me in the 2014 Fiesta Bowl, but was certainly a part of that team. And it was really fun to see Matt. It was great to see all these coaches, but let's let that Matt Miller interview roll. All right, here with Matt Miller, legendary wide receiver, and now a wide receiver coach for the Broncos. And Matt, it will be 10 years on the day on January 31st, December 31st, that you're going to have a chance to coach in the Fiesta Bowl. You as a player didn't have a chance to play in the game, but you were coaching at the time. You were up in the box with me. What's it going to be like to be back in this setting on the actual 10-year anniversary?
Yeah, it was kind of surreal when we pulled up to the hotel yesterday. I asked our security guy, Breck Orton, I'm like, this the same hotel? He's like, yeah, it's the same hotel. I'm like, all right, and those memories start flowing back. Yep. Obviously going back to that year wasn't how I wanted to be as a player, but it kind of kickstarted my coaching career, learning from guys like you how to do it the right way, and obviously in big-time games, lay it out on the line like the Broncos always do, and obviously it's a good day for Bronco Nation.
So I've been watching the receiver group closely this year, and I've had my own take. I've coached in a situation at Sanford where we had an incredible running back, and so at the receiver position, if you're not necessarily getting the volume, you have to really capitalize on the opportunities that you have. And as you've gone through this year, and the identity being really a great ground game with play action opportunities, how have you been able to manage the wide receiver room in terms of maybe the touches not being what was expected, and how have you gotten them to a place where they're now feeling really confident when they do get those opportunities?
Yeah, I think the first thing about that group is they're such a low ego group. They don't really care about stats as long as we win the football game. They really bought into blocking on the perimeter. Understanding our system is very NFL such system where they got to know where the point is, the ID, and how to adjust with the offensive line. And they really bought into that. Also knowing those play action passes are set up on the same stems as our blocking. And so managing some of those things of, hey, maybe not the volume as high as they want it to be, but at the end of the day, hey, if you get 1, you get 10, you put more points on the board of the other team, they're always going to be happy.
So basically the wide receiver room is you. Low ego, just want to win ball games. Because that's who you were. And a wicked blocker on the perimeter.
So they got more speed than I did, which is good. I was a slow guy, so I'm glad I got more speed in there.
For me, the first time I've ever actually seen Prince Strawn in person was just now. Seeing him walk in, just the body type, the frame, the skill set. What have you seen from Prince Strawn in his development? What are aspects of his game that you've seen grow, and do you think he's poised for a big performance in this Fiesta Bowl?
Yeah, he's a guy, speaking of a guy, he deserves a lot. He puts a lot of time into it. He's a very, you watch him off the hook, you're like, wow, that's a good looking kid, right? I think he's got a really good job in bowl prep of continuing to grow. He's only a true sophomore. Right, I think that's what people kind of forget. You feel like he's been here forever.
How long has he been playing football?
Yeah, not that long.
It's like
5 years. Yeah, he came over from the Bahamas, played high school football in Florida. He's still got a lot to learn and grow, but how he's playing, feeling a little fresh in the bowl prep, I'm really excited to see him go out there on a big stage and make some plays, because he's a long, tall body who has a big catch radius, and he's got big old hands. And so being able to fight for some of those 50-50 balls, he comes down with them more often than not.
Another guy that I actually loved in the recruiting process when I was at Utah State was a guy that typically probably would have walked on at Boise State, Austin Bolt. And I decided to kind of upset the apple cart, knowing that he would have gone to Boise State as a walk-on, offered him at Utah State. Now he's a scholarship receiver. See what I was doing there?
No doubt. That's a good play right there.
Yeah, just tell me about Austin Bolt, all the different roles that he plays. Is kind of a big slot, or just as a blocker, a guy that is typically playing about 4 or 5 yards from the point of attack. And what has he done for this team, and what has his career meant?
Yeah, speaking of the guy, he's been all over the place position-wise. Started off as a tight end, then they put him over as an edge rusher for a little bit, and now he's playing wide receiver, and he's really embodied that role. He's another guy who stretched the field for us vertically. He's a physical presence in the run game. We're asking him to block linebackers at times, and he just goes in there and throws his nose in there. And so being a local guy at Boise, he bleeds blue. He's been following that program for a long, long time. I know this game means a lot to him. He's been in Boise really for all of them, right, as a young kid. And so for him to go out there and play, put on that uniform, I know it's a big moment for him. We're expecting big things on Tuesday night from him.
I appreciate it. Good luck, man. It's great talking to you.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, brother.
Awesome.
Wide receivers coach, an all-time receptions leader, and that's saying something when you have a career statistical category like receptions at a school like Boise State with the receivers that you played with, many of them. Super special, Matt Miller. There's nobody who bleeds as much blue as that dude, Matt Miller. My big question on that, good interview, Coach, but you offered Austin Bolt in Logan at Utah State before Boise State offered him. So you kind of were joking at Miller. You were the one who got Austin his Scully, because Boise State saw that you guys offered him in Logan. Like, okay, we better offer him. And he stayed at Boise State. Were you guys going to play Austin Bolt at tight end also?
Yeah, the system that we ran at Utah State was very much a combo of the air raid, and it was basically a Jordan Love system. It worked for Jordan Love. So when I got hired there, I'm like, yeah, we're just going to run. We're going to run with this kid's run because he's pretty damn good.
Okay.
But it was a combination of the air raid and the Oregon tempo run game. So it was a bit of both. It was David Yost was the offensive coordinator. And so the tight end position wasn't a traditional hand in the dirt, big 265-pound guy. We wanted a dude that could run 4 verticals, that could run split flow zone, which is kick out the weak side edge, essentially get in the way.
Get you on that sluggo scene.
Yeah, yes,
man.
Exactly. We wanted a guy that was a vertical presence in the middle of the field. And I watched Austin Bolt's film, and then I started to find out some numbers about him as his speed to size ratio was off the charts.
It was.
And so, that dude can blow the top off for a guy that is a bigger human being. So, candidly, when I was coaching at Utah State, I told everybody in a recruiting meeting, said, this guy right here, and they loved his film. They saw the speed. I was like,
everything.
I go, this guy's a big reason why Boise State is as good as they are, because Treasure Valley kids end up walking on at Boise State, and they get a bonus 15 to 20 scholarship players that are walk-ons because they bleed blue. Nobody really recruits the state of Idaho. And so I was like, we need to offer this guy. And unfortunately for me, I ended up taking the job in Minnesota before all the recruiting stuff kind of wrapped up that year. But I got to know the Bolt family, Tina and Larry, really well. They're great people. And every time that I see Austin Bolt make a play, I'm like, that's my guy.
I bet. And that's got to be cool.
So last year, the cool story. So last year, I get to have the honor of raising the blue chaos flag at the New Mexico game, which a lot happened the next day, to say the least. But I'm raising the blue chaos flag. My wife is with me. It's a little emotional. My wife's crying. It's just, you just kind of pull at the heartstrings a little bit. But I'm walking actually went up with Jeremiah Dickey up to his suite. We're walking for the first play. We're still on the field, and I see a play action, and I see a ball just down the field. And guess who was on the other end of the very first play of the game? It was Austin Bolt. I'm like, that's my guy. And so it was really fun for me. I root really hard for Austin because he's a great young man, a Bora Lion. And I love the Bora program. It's kind of a chip on its shoulder. Doesn't necessarily have all the, the bells and whistles of Rocky.
Rocky.
It's not
blue collar.
Yeah. Oh,
More so.
So it was my other school in Meridian.
Meridian, Rocky, Eagle.
There's Mountain
View, and Hawaii.
Mountain View. Hawaii's
right?
turned into a world beater,
View.
and they have great facilities. And Bora's out there just on a small grass field, just banging heads. I'm like, I want a dude from Bora.
I want to bounce around a little bit. Fiesta Bowl Media Day, special edition, Ball Talk, Season 2, Episode 14, Ballgame and the Sandman. You talked to Maddox, and it was funny. Me and BJ were watching you kind of have your one-on-one with Maddox Madsen, and BJ's like, old quarterback to new quarterback, Boise State history. I know you
Except for he's taking a team as the starting quarterback to the CFP, and I held for extra points and field goals. but please continue.
I always know you enjoy talking to quarterbacks because you speak the language and you see things the way they see things. And quarterbacks, they always say, see the game differently. What was your ultimate takeaway from Maddox Madsen today as he gets ready to play in by far the biggest game of his life here in a couple of days?
I think that if I were to sum up my first interaction, I hadn't met Maddox Madsen. First time was today. We'll have a chance to show that interview. I think it's tomorrow or one of the next couple of days. We have a lot of great content from these media days that we're gonna
can't use it all.
Yeah, you don't want to peak too soon, man. You don't.
BJ would flip.
Yeah, you gotta hold some for the people. But you know what? My biggest takeaway was the word stoic, and I love a quarterback that has a level of stoicism. And it's that his highs aren't necessarily too high, his lows aren't too low, and even talking to him, his personality is very even keeled.
I know,
and I think that's a tremendous trait. And so I talked to him specifically about the pressures of being the quarterback at Boise State. And you might say, well, it's much more pressure being the quarterback at Penn State. Well, I would say, how many really good quarterbacks has Penn State had over the last 25 years? Like really good.
Last first round draft pick at quarterback would be Kerry Collins. That was in 95.
Yeah, he's retired and
30 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
If somebody's escaping me and there's a first rounder,
you had Christian Hackenberg, who was like this.
Hack it.
He could not hack it, and then even Drew Aller. It feels like Penn State's traditionally just had, maybe this massive human being that's got humongous arm talent, and it just never really materializes.
Yes.
I really do like Drew Aller. I got the chance to see him. I didn't talk to him, but he is a tall, big.
He looked like a good guy too. He's a total quarterback. I kind of moseyed over to the Drew Aller table.
Did you actually walk over like this?
And then you could say like, okay, yeah, I like that guy. I like Drew Aller. And but I agree. Like in big games, I haven't seen Drew Aller be the Drew Aller that they've hoped for. When the game is on the line and Drew Aller has to go win it, and albeit it's like Oregon, it's like Ohio State, it's like Michigan last year, like really tough games.
Yeah,
but he hasn't been able to do it yet.
Right.
But maybe this year. One thing I want to talk to you about with Mad Dog is it feels to me, and I talked to him about this, that there is he's the carbon copy Boise State quarterback. He's 5'0" from Utah. Didn't have a lot of offers. Beats out Talon Green, who's the starter at Arkansas. 7-6 SEC team.
Who went off yesterday, by the way. Looked really good.
Talon Green plays great in championship games. Mountain West championship game or bowl game.
Yeah.
He always plays great in those bowl games he has. But it feels like that's the type of guy Boise State fans would love to rally around,
Yep.
But that's not really the case. And I don't want to act like I'm completely disrespecting the fans who disrespect Madsen. I get it sometimes. Sometimes you're like, damn, that should have been picked and it would have been a pick 6. Uh-oh. Like sometimes you're thinking, wow, it's not perfect, but it feels to me like if this fan base was ever going to cut a kid a little bit of slack, it would have been Doggy with this team. But I don't feel that slack has been cut. And I think if Boise State loses and it's not pretty in this Fiesta Bowl, then it's not going to be the best off season, I think, with these fans in their quarterback. Your thoughts on that? It feels like he is the perfect BSU quarterback, but just feels like the fans haven't been fully accepting of him. And if he has a great Fiesta Bowl, hopefully then they can do that. But maybe if he loses the next week in the Orange Bowl, they'll be right on him again.
Well, it's a very complicated conversation. I think you bring up the very reason why I asked the question to him about how do you manage the expectations at a place that just has tremendously high expectations of not only their offensive coordinator, I've lived that, but of their quarterback position. And frankly, if you're not throwing, at a 78% clip and 322 yards, 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, like the Bronco Nation is I love the standards that Boise State Twitter and social media and the fan base that's going to show up to the stadium. I love every bit of it. I want to be a part of, if I'm a quarterback, I want to be a part of a place that has sky high expectations. And so I do think that his best trait to be able to deal with this, and this is why I believe Boise State is 12-1 and in the second round of the college football playoff. You're in the second round of the CFP by way of a bye, but you're there. I think it is because of the stoicism of a guy like Maddox Madsen. I think he's done a really good job. He talked to me about having a very, very small circle of people that he knows are his people, and everything outside of that circle he doesn't concern himself with. So I think that Maddox Madsen has been the perfect quarterback at the perfect time in a year where you just needed somebody to be a really tough-minded, put up the blinders type of a quarterback and not get too caught up with all the sexiness of it. The biggest problem that Maddox Madsen faced as it relates to the Boise State fan base was people showed up to an airport for a 5-star recruit in Malachi Nelson.
They're still commenting about him on this very show.
Well, good. And everybody,
Boise State scared him away. Jaden Finch, our producer, put up the Quintana show. Very popular, the Quintana show comment. And the Quintana show says, we had 2 quarterbacks that we chased away. Malachi and Taylon Green is a former quarterback, offensive coordinator, someone who spent his life in football. Tell the Quintana show your opinion on them. Boise State chased away 2 good quarterbacks. You saw Taylon Green 6-6 in the SEC. Malachi Nelson, he's going to start at UTEP next year, possibly.
Oh my gosh.
I think he's going to UTEP. And he's going to throw the ball all over the place. The Sun Bowl, it's never going to see better quarterback play than Malachi. He'll be Conference USA player. He's going to be the greatest thing ever.
I'd say tap your brakes on that. Yeah.
But I mean, come on, man, that's still out there.
Yeah.
Chase 2 quarterbacks away.
I'm talking to all of Bronco Nation, and you can go back and watch the tape. He's a guy from my alma mater. Like, I literally brought my jersey. Okay, here it is, man. I brought my jersey because I was hoping Snoop Dogg would sign it because I played. I played Los Alamitos, man. There it is. So I didn't get to Snoop Dogg. The reason I wanted him to sign it.
Have Snoop sign your high school
because
jersey?
His Long Beach Poly was our major rival in the area. We shared a stadium with them. Wow. And my last game that I ever started as a quarterback was in the semifinals of the CIF playoffs against Long Beach Poly in the stadium we shared.
Who was their best player at that time?
Mercedes Lewis was playing quarterback.
Totally. Yes,
Herschel Dennis was playing running back.
USC.
Yes. They were good. They had about 22 Division I offers on that team.
Herschel Dennis, he was right before Reggie Bush showed up. He was pretty good.
He was really good.
So but they scared the point being, away.
I felt like Malachi Nelson was not going to beat out Maddox Madsen. I thought it early, and this has come from a guy that I know the story of Malachi. I know his family, but it's about the right person for the job, and the right person for the job was Maddox Madsen. Period. Point blank. End of story.
They have.
Yeah,
he's the best quarterback.
And so
they have.
And the reality of college football in 2024 and beyond is that you don't coach for next year. You don't coach for 2 years from now. If you're a coach like I was and you're thinking about 2-3 years from now, you get fired.
Yeah.
And so you don't just make decisions to think about, oh man, can you imagine how good Malachi is going to be in 2026? Guess what? Spencer Danielson might not be the head coach if it doesn't go well. And Maddox Madsen was ready for the job. He was battle tested. And let me ask you this question. What makes the NIL market quarterback-wise, what makes a quarterback valuable, like really valuable?
In the market for NIL?
Let's talk Ohio State, Penn State. Like, what types of players right now are commanding a ton of money? Is it that they were high school 5-star recruits that haven't played many significant snaps, or is it that you've done it on a football field at the college level?
Totally. Look at John Mateer. Okay, John Mateer, no one knew who the hell he was. Cam Ward was it. Obviously, Incarnate Word.
Word, Wazoo.
They want experience, they want leadership, and they want freaking accuracy. Like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, and the 5-star
what they want,
kid.
Johnny, what they want is field credibility. And the only way that you can build field credibility, and that's why I think it's a great thing for Malachi to go to a program. It's a bottom 10 program in college football. It is.
And he hasn't been there yet, but that was rumored.
But if he does go there, whatever,
like
and that's great. Go build up your resume, and your resume that builds your ability in this new landscape it's wherever you can find your playing time and build up your resume. It's your film.
Be it UTEP 1 year, and then you're in the Big or the SEC the next year with 2 years to play, that type of thing. I wish Malachi the best, but he didn't win the job. And I can't believe we're still talking about this before you're getting ready for the Fiesta Bowl.
I love it. I love when your veins pop out, man. You're there.
I love it, man. Your thoughts on Jeanty. By the way, here's how it works. Every player comes in this room, okay, and like 7 or 8 players get their own table, their own area, and then everybody else gets filed along.
And they have a beautiful picture, a game shot of them.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's the Fiesta Bowl, the CFP logo on it.
If I'm Ashton Jeanty, I'm like, hey, can I take that banner?
I'm gonna hang it up.
Yeah, I want to hang it in my room or whatever. Those things are cool. But your takeaway, Jeanty was the star. It felt like to me, everybody at Penn State, all they wanted to talk about was Jeanty, because that's all they're hearing about. And then, everybody with Boise State, obviously, too, they want to hear about Jeanty. And I like how Jeanty said, like, hey, I didn't ask for this. The team didn't ask for this. This is just kind of the way it's been. But he said, we've done a good job of canceling the whole thing of Ashton Jeanty and the Boise State Broncos, of just being the Boise State Broncos. Because let's be honest, and rightfully so, whatever. Ashton gets 95 out of 100 headlines with this program.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, and that's what we saw today. I mean, his table, he did Ahmed's table, for example, Hassan. There'd be 5 people there, then 4 or 5 minutes, there would be maybe 1 person. He'd have some time to chill. Jeanty, there's 10, 15 people at his table the entire time.
My personal highlight of the media day was contrasting the overall vibe of Penn State and just how their players were versus the vibe of Boise State. Well, first off, one of the things I noticed is that like the coaches were all seated directly behind their little placard with their name on it the entire hour for Penn State. Boise State coaches, man, I was yucking it up with guys that I'd coached, guys I've coached with like Stacy Collins, Nate Potter, Matt Miller. It was just a much different feel. Even the players, the players were interacting with each other right away. There was the highlight of the media day for me for Boise State was it was like 25 Boise State players that aren't in one of the big interview spots. They all bum rushed Ashton Jeanty's media availability. And just to further the point of like, oh my gosh, he's a superstar. He's the guy. It was just great. And so
good point.
A good feeling that I got was that Boise State, and I think that teams play best when they're enjoying the moment, they're enjoying the camaraderie with each other, and they're not tight. I felt no tight sphincters from the Boise State Broncos whatsoever.
Another comment we had earlier, I said what I said about Drew Aller, the Penn State quarterback, who I do like, and I think he'll probably play on Sundays. But it was, I said that he hasn't won like the big game or had that magic moment that maybe Penn State fans want him to have. Somebody commented, well, you didn't watch him play against USC. I saw that game, and he did play well. But if you're going to brag about beating USC, if you're going to give Drew Aller...
What did they finish up this year?
USC 7-6.
Yeah, so 6-6 regular season.
Yeah. I mean, if you're...
And I'm not going to say that Boise State has an incredible resume of beating, top 5 teams throughout the course of the year. So that's not the conversation.
Yeah, but if they get to say, hey, Drew Aller did really well against USC. Okay, I get it. It's USC, but you can't use that and then discredit Boise State in the same argument about didn't play anybody or beat anybody.
Yeah, let's have a real conversation.
And the other comment, the other guy said, well, hey, look at the Minnesota tape. Drew Aller was tremendous against Minnesota, and that was a very underrated Minnesota team. You were on that team
rowing
2
boats,
years
baby.
ago.
Rowing boats.
Was Minnesota vastly underrated this year?
They won 7 games.
Okay.
7 games.
7-5. Okay.
Yeah. So my last year coaching in Minnesota, we went 9-4. Last year, Minnesota won 5. They went 5-7 in the regular season, won their bowl game.
This was
got
a
to
down
6-7
year by PJ Fleck standards.
It's kind of been that way in the last couple of years, to be honest. I mean,
I'm with you.
Yeah. So Yeah, I mean, I think Drew Aller's extremely talented. I think he's just being around him. He's got a great mindset, mentality. He didn't seem tight. He seemed loose.
No.
He was out, kind of. So I don't want to paint the picture that Penn State was all sitting there, sphincters tight, but there was a definite feeling of joy around the Boise State overall contingent.
I
felt
think about that at the time, but you're right. Like Jeremiah Irby and a bunch of other DBs. I think I saw Cam Camper there too. They were like some of the guys who came over. They bum rushed the Ashton Jeanty table, and they even had a microphone. Everybody uses those tiny.
And the
little
Penn State, a couple of Penn State players did that as well.
They had that
it
too.
was just the entire team.
Yes.
That was the thing. It was so cool about
and they
it.
were asking Ashton questions, and I'll tell you, if there was animosity or jealousy or envy.
Zero.
You wouldn't do that to the
Zero.
kid. If there's the one superstar on the team and everybody's kind of jealous of it, they're not going to go and have fun with him. They're going to leave him alone and say, whatever, you do you, fine, whatevs. But that's not the case with this team. I sense that as well. If Boise State, they're not going to lose this game because they're not unified enough. That's not going to be the case at all. Why will Boise State lose this game if they lose this game?
Turning the football over.
Really?
That's
That's not something they do often.
Yeah. Well, that's been my key point to this game. And I've said it everywhere that I've had the opportunity to talk about this matchup, whether it be in the Denver market, on media, whatever it may be. If Boise State has one or zero turnovers, giveaways, they're going to win this football game.
Outright.
2, I don't feel great. 3 or more, you're getting obliterated. I'm just going to be honest. Like, if the game turns anything into what SMU was, and the thing about Penn State, they're really, really good in the trenches. Really good. So is Boise State, though.
Really good in the trenches.
So is Boise State. SMU was not really, really good in both offensive and defensive lines. To me, like Boise State now healthy is.
Mm-hmm.
But if that pass rush starts to really affect Maddox Madsen on, say, third and 7. I talked to him on the interview about it. You get into those 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11.
Yeah.
And you start making bad decisions with the football because you're chasing that 3rd down conversion.
Yeah.
I don't like the chances. But I think Maddox Madsen's proven it, whether he's had interceptions that have been dropped by defenders. He's taking care of the football. And that's a huge deal.
Just about any quarterback in America. That's the one thing you cannot nitpick on the Mad Dog. The dude protects the rock. He does. That's why when you said, hey, if Boise State doesn't turn the ball over, you think they win this game. Boise State doesn't do that a lot. And I think, okay.
And didn't do it against Oregon.
Yeah.
I mean, what was the final? I think it was
lost by 3.
Yeah, but I'm saying how many? I think it was like 1 or 2. It wasn't
turnover scale against Oregon.
It was it was fairly even.
Yeah. The one thing about the Oregon game was Maddox 17 for 40. That's my scare. Because one, if you're throwing the ball 40 times in this game, dang it, man, how many touches is Jeanty going to get if we're throwing the ball 40 times any team, right? If you're doing that, how can you focus on what you want to do and run the ball? And then obviously, I mean, the Oregon comparison to the Penn State
0 turnovers committed against Oregon.
Boise
the
State
team
did not turn the ball over in Eugene.
Yep, didn't turn it over,
and they should have won the game.
Yeah, and it was this. I mind you.
Okay.
This was a neutral site. This is a neutral site contest. That was at Autzen Stadium.
How much is that different?
It is different. It is different. And I undervalued that in the first round. And I was excited for Tennessee. I'm like,
man. And you're like,
Nico Iamaleava is going to go and put on a show. Nope.
You're like, it's really hard to win on the road in college football. Now you're throwing in weather on Midwest and Northeast
and you're playing the best teams in the country on the road.
Yeah,
I mean, they typically don't lose at home.
Penn State doesn't lose a lot of home games. Yeah.
And so I think the neutral site component of this, the history of Boise State in this bowl game, which I know Penn State has great history. It's 7-0. You're 11-0 between 10-0 between Boise State and Penn State combined in the Fiesta Bowl. Something's got to give, and I'm excited for it. I think these teams match up much better. Boise State matches up much better than the Penn State SMU game, even if it was on a neutral field. And the reason for it, and I've said it before, I called it before the SMU Penn State game, is that SMU plays a loose style of offense. It's all based off of Kevin Jennings running around and making crazy behind the back, over hook shot throws.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
You know Rhett Lashley very well,
he's a great coach, great dude, but it's a bit of a looser system.
Yeah, okay.
And looser systems especially when you're on the road and you're playing really good defensive fronts, it leads to takeaways for the other team. And that's exactly what happened. I think it's a completely different storyline.
The job Penn State has, I mean, obviously Tom Allen, someone you're very close to, the defensive coordinator at Penn State, who's done a hell of a job.
And a great human being.
Let's be honest. But he also has, Abdul's going to be a top 5 pick. They got some warriors here. They always have at Penn State. But Tom Allen and the job he has, stop Ashton Jeanty, go to Orange Bowl, play Georgia or Notre Dame. That's it. Stop Ashton Jeanty, and you go to the Orange Bowl. I'm sure anybody who subscribes to anything Penn State subscribes to that theory.
Yep.
If you lock Jeanty up, nobody else here is going to beat you, okay? Now, Tom Allen, you caught up with him here at Fiesta Bowl Media Days and had a conversation about that. Huh?
Yeah, so my strange tie to the state of Indiana. My dad coached at Purdue and then at Notre Dame. I went to high school at
South Bend High School.
Penn High School in Mishawaka, Indiana, but you were close. It was in the general region, so I'm proud of you. I mean, it's really hard to get South Bend when my dad was coaching at Notre Dame.
I did not go to South Bend High.
I thought you did more Wikipedia research, but it's okay.
I do a lot of Wikipedia research.
But what I'll say about Tom Allen, he was a high school head coach in the state of Indiana, a guy that he and I almost crossed paths a couple different times. At one point, I was considering hiring him as a defensive coordinator at Western Kentucky. At one point, he was considering hiring me as an offensive coordinator at IU, and it just never came to fruition. A man of faith, a tremendous human being, did a great job at IU that 2020 season with my favorite player maybe in the history of college football, Michael Penix Jr.
He coached Michael Penix on that team?
Yes, he was the head coach.
Tom Allen hired Kalen DeBoer to be his OC.
That's exactly
I
right.
like this guy, man.
Yeah,
He's
and
smart.
so I wanted to get into the weeds a little bit with him and have our own little ball talk interview. And he was great. He stood up. He was one of the only coaches that didn't stay right behind his placard. And so I wanted to get into some of the dynamics that go into the run fits and how you get into, if you add an element to the box, how do you make sure that your run fits are all sound, because you haven't played that way necessarily the whole year? And I think Tom Allen had some really interesting things that Boise State fans are going to love to hear.
Well, let's get to that. This is Mike Sanford catching up with the Penn State defensive coordinator, Tom Allen, here on Ball Talk.
How are you, man?
Good to see you, buddy.
You too, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're doing a great job, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm doing the media thing now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm on the dark side, man. I'm on the dark side. Yeah, it's good though. I'm having fun with it. You know what's good about it? I don't move my family, so that's really good. Hey, can I ask you just about some just Boise State offensively and stuff? I work for Bronco Nation News, so I won't make. I get the whole deal. Right?
Sure,
so,
no doubt.
I was just gonna ask you a couple.
Okay,
so,
gotcha.
Yeah. All right. All right. Here
Stand up.
What do you think? Whatever's easier. Yeah, we're okay. Yeah. Here with old friend of mine, Coach Tom Allen. And Coach, just wanted to congratulate you first and foremost for what you've done in this defensive unit that you're building. Tell me a little bit about the matchup, what you see with Boise State offensively, and challenges that they do present.
Yeah, I mean, tremendous challenges. Obviously, it all starts with number 2. Jeanty is a tremendous player. Got our respect immediately. Obviously, you kind of follow him along the season. You see all the runs, and obviously they always show the highlights, but then you start watching every snap, and just the toughness, the balance, the vision, just consistently making guys miss or just bouncing off of guys. I've seen him break so many tackles. It's kind of it's as a fan, it's cool to watch. As a coach, not so much. But I just think that it all starts with him. But then the thing that makes him really good is it's not just him. When you got a quarterback that can create with both his legs and his arm, he seems like just a tough, moxie kid that knows how to to put the ball in the right guy's hands. I think number 9. I know Cam well. We recruited him at Indiana. He played for us, but I think he's a special player. I really do. And I know he is. And so then you add that to the mix, and they got other receivers, and they got the tight ends. I think 85 is a really good player. And then the O-line to me is just really, really solid as a group. They play well together. They have some different combinations. They don't really seem to matter who's in there, but they really work well together. They step well together. They kind of have a good feeling. They're connected as an O-line, I would say, watching them. So that creates a tough scenario for defense. They're one of the top 10 offenses in the country for a reason. So ton of respect for the coaching staff and the players.
When you look at you probably have seen all 12, 13 games and Buzz different ones earlier in the season.
Sure.
There's been different plans to try to stop Jeanty, which seems like were deviations from maybe the structure of the defense that a team would have played. And maybe one of the early games where there was a good plan was Hawaii, for example. What have you seen from defenses in terms of like how they've gone about trying to stop Ashton Jeanty, and then the give and take of maybe trying to take away that, and then what could potentially be in. Just what have you seen?
Yeah, I would say, load the box.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the first step for people's plans if you watch them, and that sounds great, but then, like you said, when he's not just the only guy you got, that can hurt you, So that's why I think, teams, you have to be tremendously sound in your fits.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it as a staff earlier in the week. It's like, it's like playing option football.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody, because you misfit one gap, and that dude is out the gate. And that's where it makes him different. So he not only, usually the sturdier guys, they don't have long speed, so eventually you're going to tackle him. That's not the case with him. When he gets out in the open, people don't catch him. So to me, that's where the layers come in. And you've got to be so sound at the point of attack, but you also have to have layers.
Yep.
And so to me, that's a big focus for us. And the teams that have done that, that's a better success. But no one stopped him.
Right.
I mean, nobody stopped him. So you're trying to contain him. He's going to get his touches. He's going to get his yards. But you want to do a great job of not letting the other guys beat you.
When I've watched the film, it's not just the fits being accounted for.
Yeah.
It's almost the taking away of space within those fits. So if you look at some of these defenses that have just played box population, what challenges does it bring to maybe add an extra element to the fit, but also have all your run fits maybe be different than, say, a previous game or a previous philosophical belief, but to make sure that even if your edges are accounted for, that you have the players in the right position to actually make the tackle instead of just be in position.
Well, that's the thing. To your point, so what they do is they make your edge guys tackle.
Yeah.
They make your corners tackle. A lot of guys, that's not their strength. I mean, they're cover guys for a reason, so that's a big problem. And then for a lot of teams, and then number two is when you talk about the fitting those gaps. Well, there's usually nothing there. So when he breaks through, that's why sometimes he breaks through. It's like ain't nobody close to catching him because everybody's already been accounted for and they've already added the extra guy in the box. And so, to me, that's where the discipline comes in, the angles, pursuit. But it's at the end of the day, all 11 guys have to tackle him.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is what we have to do well. And if you don't, it's going to be tough. And so, but for me, it's like I said, it's being sound in those areas, and then can you react to the pass off of that. So, to me, it's the eye discipline and your keys and your reads, and the eye discipline, whether you're playing man or zone, is critical. So, I mean, you just got to be a very, very sound, diverse defense, and you also, at the same time, try to maybe give them something they haven't been working on the last 3 weeks, which is hard to do this time of year because you do what you do, you have what you have, and you don't want to change a bunch of things because it's got you here. But sometimes you have to modify to adapt to a kid like this. So he's pretty awesome.
Last one, kind of on a personal note, known you for a long time. We both have Indiana ties, right? State of Indiana, high school. I played at Penn High School. You've coached in many schools across state. What does it mean for you as a guy, myself, who's gone through, been a head coach, to get, go through a tough patch and then to be in this position as a defensive coordinator? How has that been for you in your family?
I feel really blessed. By God's grace, we rise and we fall. And we've had mountaintop opportunities and we've had some valleys along the way. And so the chance to come here after coming out of a valley and Coach Franklin giving this opportunity has been really special. Such a talented staff and great people to be around and great players. And so you just you learn through the course of that journey to not, think too much of yourself when things are going good. You learn to be humble, and you also learn to grow and stay true to who you are when things are hard and things don't go the way you want them to go. And you realize, hey, it's, your value and your purpose in being here is bigger than just winning the football game. And when you know that and you know who you are, you're able to withstand those ups and downs. And so that's what this is about. And teaching our family that, our own children, our 2 daughters and our son who's now coaching with me here, which is awesome. He played for me in Indiana. Now he's our assistant safeties coach, and teaching him how to handle it. Because, it's a hard profession sometimes, but it's also a great profession. It gives you a chance to teach life. And that, to me, is what this is about, is learning to handle the ebbs and flows of life.
Penn State
being able to just persevere.
Tom Allen, who Coach Sanford has had a nice relationship with over the years. Okay, translate that, Coach. What Coach Allen say? What's Bronco Nation need to know after consuming that interview too? From kind of a Penn State mind frame. I like when he talks about angles and whatnot on the run fits, hat on a hat. And it really is true when you go back and watch the tape, like on a lot of those Jeanty afterburners. Yeah, Boise State did an excellent job, hat on a hat. The reason he was running away from everybody is so there wasn't anybody there. They were all being blocked.
What I would sum up Tom Allen's interview is that Ashton Jeanty is really good at football.
That's how you would.
I mean, you could tell that as a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
This is a type of player that keeps you up at night.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not just about schematically figuring out the answers to having people in position. You talked about it. It's an 11-man job for a defense when you're playing a running back that is generational like Ashton Jeanty is. And I loved what he said there that Boise State's formationally puts you in some spots, whether it's a nub tight end. So have you ever seen formations where it's a closed side tight end, no receiver outside?
They call that a nub?
Yeah, that'd be a nub side.
Just sitting in the slot or on
no,
attached?
like a tight end, hand in the dirt. Okay. So you got Louder right there, ready to go, run duo and come down on a double team. And well, guess who's sitting outside of that double team sometimes to be able to fit the run? A corner.
Okay.
So if you're zone coverage outfit and you don't go corners over, so that means that the corners would go to the 3 receivers detached opposite of that closed side tight end with no receivers on the outside.
Yeah, you keep a corner out there.
Guess who's responsible for making that tackle? A damn pencil neck.
Yeah.
A corner.
They don't want to tackle Jeanty.
Yeah. And now I think with that, I think that there's some interesting things that you can do. I think the smartest thing to do as it relates to handling Ashton Jeanty from maybe like a corner perimeter, he's saying that you have to be willing to do that job, not just once, not just twice, but over and over and over. A lot of teams will play like a looser corner. You got to bring that corner to eliminate space, because when Ashton Jeanty gets a full head of steam, he's either going to make you miss, he's going to run through an arm tackle,
stiff arm you.
If you try to go and sweep tackle the guy, which is where you leave your feet and essentially try to dive and trip him up by way of your body, I call that a sweep tackle. He hurdles you.
Yep, he jumps you.
And so the best solution is either go corners over, which then shows you're in man coverage, or if you go corners over, then you keep a linebacker in that spot. But you give away the it is a man look, and frankly, sometimes the other side that you can check the play to is to run the ball away from that overhang player. If he's a will linebacker, a big Midwestern kid with a big neck, and he's got a neck roll on.
He had a neck
and
roll.
A flat top like a 1980s Penn State Nittany Lion.
Gosh, the round neck rolls. Remember the Eric Dickerson neck rolls?
I feel like Penn State was like,
bring a neck roll back, man.
I know we need more of them.
Old school, like 80s, like
The downside of doing that, though, like I said, is that you tip your hat to the play caller that it's man coverage. It's like, okay, we're going to get into this nub 3-by receivers.
You put all the corners with
nickel,
the receivers.
Nickel and two corners.
You're telling Doggy he's got man.
Yep, he's got man, and you can either go to work on some of the man answers in the pass game, or you can be hard headed and run the football against a box populated man front type look. And a lot of times it's tough to fit the run. I was talking to Shade Oladipo about it, and just kind of off the side.
He had his own stage.
Yeah, I just talked to him at the very end and caught up with him. He's a Colorado guy, so it was a lot of fun talking talking Denver and Aurora.
Okay.
So he was just saying, like, if you're a team, like he was asking about CU. CU plays man coverage the entire game, tightly contested man coverage, and add an extra element into the box. The problem with that is in man coverage, there's some conflicts because I have that tight end, or I have that fullback, or I have that running back in man coverage. So if he swings out this way, I lost my run fit. So man coverage can oftentimes, while you have more people in the box, you can't appropriately fit the run game account for every gap. And guess what happens when you run the ball against man coverage type front looks is that you misfit one gap, or you schematically get, a linebacker or a safety out of the box that should have been there. That's what leads those 75-yard Ashton Jeanty signature runs. So there isn't just a really easy solution for anybody. You got to win your one-on-one matchups against offensive linemen. And then when you have opportunities to tackle Ashton Jeanty, you got to tackle him. Well, good luck.
All right. I talked to the Penn State defensive line coach, co-defensive coordinator, last name Poindexter, played in the NFL.
Good football coach.
Anthony Poindexter,
really
I believe.
Good. He's a Cody coordinator.
Is his name. And he played with Ray Lewis, and he played, a really high-level football as a safety with the Baltimore Ravens. And the cool thing he said about Jeanty, and you're right, like he's the type of guy who will just keep these coaches up in the middle of the night, laying in their bed, staring at their ceiling.
Oh, gosh. I don't know.
Because if you don't, it's like John Lynch used to say this about Barry Sanders, because he would play him twice a year, the old NFC Central Division. John Lynch is like, if you don't just, and this was one of the best defenses ever, that Tampa 2, and John Lynch said, if you didn't bring it against Barry, like he would completely embarrass you. He could take any run to the house if you're not disciplined. And Ashton Jeanty's that same way. So that's absolutely what keeps smart people up in the middle of the night. They're just scared, like, hey, if we don't do what we're supposed to, this is going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly fast. And what's going to happen? You really have to stay, obviously, in your fits there with Jeanty. And the one thing that Poindexter said about it, that the most difficult thing is everybody says, yeah, just tackle him low, get his ankles. Everybody, the word in coaching is everybody has the same size ankles. Okay, they might have bigger muscles, bigger quads, bigger biceps. His ankles are the exact same size as Jaden Finch's ankles. Okay, tackle the ankles. Okay,
Jaden, I'd love to see your ankles.
Shout out to our producer.
He might have cankles though. If he does,
cankles. But anyway,
you're right.
He said,
good.
Yeah, Poindexter said the reason, like, it's so hard to tackle him low is because he doesn't let you hit him below the knees because he's short. He's compact. You can't just, okay, Ashton, here, I'm going to tackle you by the ankles. Good luck. Like, you just have to tackle him however the hell you can tackle him. You don't get to pinpoint what area you're going to attack unless you're really, really good at tackling, and you can figure that out and play at that level of football to where you can do that against a player like Ashton Jeanty. But interesting to hear about those Penn State guys saying, man, it's hard to tackle him low because he's low.
Right.
And it's just hard. That makes sense to you?
It makes a lot of sense. And if you do tackle him low, I already talked about his hurdling ability, but also you got to think about it. It takes a lot of bravery to go low on a guy like Ashton Jeanty, because what's the one thing that he always does at the point of contact? He churns his legs.
You thinking Roger Craig?
Yes. Yeah. And so you end up getting quadzilla or knees in the side of your helmet. And that's a real thing. If you don't think that these football players have human thoughts that go through their brains when they think about the ways to bring a ball carrier down, I mean, those things go through players, especially if you create space. And that's going to be key for me in this game is schematically, how is Dirk Cutter, Tim Keene, Nate Potter, Jimmy Montgomery, J-Mo, how are those guys going to create opportunities to get Ashton Jeanty in space? And a lot of it is going to be formationally and finding tendencies. And I think something that Dirk probably has been dealing with all year. We dealt with it at Stanford. When you have I won't say that Stephon Taylor was a Ashton Jeanty level back.
2,000 yards?
He was right. Yeah. He was
a 2,000-yard season. Yeah. Okay.
And so over 2,000-yard rushing season, we got a different defensive game plan than what we had prepared for all week, because people would play us completely different. I'll never forget, I'm coaching against Justin freaking Wilcox, and he's the defensive coordinator at Washington for Sark, and we had all of our checks.
Where were you?
I was at Stanford.
Okay.
And we had all of our checks in place to deal with an underfront, which is where the nose tackle lines up to the tight end side, and a 5 technique and a Sam on the ball. We prepared for bear front, which is now a zero technique, which means the nose tackles head up on the center, and then both guards are covered by down linemen. So it's called a 303. Shout out to Colorado, 303 front, because you have a 3 technique, a 0 technique, and a 3 technique.
303.
So our second check was built for bear fronts, and then the third check was built for just straight odd fronts, which is where you have 3-4 chalkboard nose, and then you have 2-4 techniques line up directly over tackles, and then 2 edge players. Justin Wilcox came out and played an over front, which is the 3 tech. We didn't have anything on our wristband to answer, and we lost the damn game because
it was the Huskies. But yeah,
I mean, we still went to the Rose Bowl and the Huskies didn't, so it was really good. It was still a lot of fun. At least both teams had fun that day, you know.
Coach, man. What's the coverage like? We got to wrap this up. We got other things going on. Idaho Sports Talk, I'll just say we're going to do our regular show, Prater on the Ball Game. Monday, that's tomorrow, we'll be there, 3 to 6 Mountain. Special edition show. I think we're on the air at 1 on game day from the Fiesta Bowl, State Farm Stadium. That'll be a blast. You're in town. You called the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl last night. Now you're here working for BNN this week.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of fun. It's great to be back as an alum as well. I'm here to work. Okay, I'm just going to make that really clear. So any of you former teammates that are going to try to drag me down, Amory Sanford is going to make sure that I'm not out past my bedtime.
Dude,
so
your whole team is going to be here from back in the day.
It's going to be really fun.
Not only players you played with, but the cool thing for you is all those dudes you coached. You know, what was it like catching up with Dirk Cutter? He recruited you here.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, same guy. Same guy. It's
just
Dirk.
Typical Dirk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it, man.
The architect of the modern era of Boise State football.
Did you know when you were getting recruited and when you were a young player? Because you grew up talking football with Urban Meyer when you were 13 years old.
Yeah,
if you had a question, you would just say, "Hey, coach." When you found out what Boise State was doing, Dirk, Coach Pete comes, all of a sudden you're working for Chris Peterson. Were you thinking like what they're doing at Boise is cutting edge or the wave of the future? What did you think about it?
I didn't know, but my dad did.
Okay. Your dad called it.
Yeah.
He was like, well, those
guys were my coaches, and they gave me minuses on my grade sheet for taking 2 inches too long on my punch step and all these little stupid things. So I frankly was tired of getting scrutinized for every little tiny play. So that's all I could think about is these assholes that I'm playing for. But in reality, I think this, I knew that Boise State as a program was a special program that was going to be on a meteoric rise. And my dad just said, "Hey, I'm just going to tell you, you're around some really good coaches."
Your dad said that.
Yeah, and he knew Chris Peterson. He didn't know him personally, but he knew the Bellotti tree. He knew the Tedford tree.
Yeah.
And Dirk Cutter and my dad had known each other for a very long period of time. They date back to the 1980s, and there was a little coaching fraternity my dad was a part of at Long Beach State and Idaho State. These two programs kind of shared coaches. It was Marvin Lewis, Dirk Cutter.
Yeah.
My dad, he never coached at Idaho State, but it was a little bit of a coaching fraternity. And then the head coach was a guy named Mike Shepard.
Did they coach Terrell Davis?
I don't think so.
Okay. Terrell Davis played at Long Beach State, and then they got rid of the program, so he had to go to Georgia. That might have been times you guys.
I didn't know that.
There. Yeah, Terrell Davis played at Long Beach.
Oh, I think it was for the old head coach Allen. He died when he was the head. George Allen, yeah,
back and coached,
and then he died on the job.
Right.
I don't think he was actually like calling ball plays and died, but that'd be a great way to go down. To be honest, go down in a blaze of glory as a ball coach.
Field. Now let's end it on a good note. We got some stuff to get. We got some. I'm sorry.
So BJ captured some practice footage from yesterday.
No, just now. BJ just got
Oh,
back.
my gosh. BJ coming in hot.
So
we've been just talking, just yapping our faces off. BJ's been getting more content.
Were we on the air there talking, or was BJ airing the practice footage and he just let us keep talking? Okay.
Here it is.
Airing right now.
Well, I get a chance to look at it. So BJ, where was this? I'm trying to remember if I practiced at this venue. Is this Pinnacle High School?
I'll set BJ up with the microphone. Look at the weather.
Oh, this is the new megaplex that they built in Scottsdale that has 1 million fields, tons of tennis courts. It's like turned into almost like an IMG for athletes. I actually saw this when I was here for spring training, watching the San Francisco Giants prepare for another.
What's the distance to right field on that?
390 looks like.
You could hit that out.
Oh,
you were a hell of a ball player, weren't you?
I was a catcher.
Yeah.
All
right.
See Mad Dog right there with the mullet. He's got his
doggy.
Yeah, one thing I did appreciate interviewing Mad Dog today is I respect a good mullet. So it was fantastic.
He's got a great one. Ball Talk, episode 14, season 2. Not sure when we'll be back. Well, if it's going to be a post Ball Talk or if it's getting you ready for the Orange Bowl against Notre Dame.
Yeah, we should just ask the people if they want more ball talk. Then we'll find a way to give them more ball talk.
I know what they're gonna say, man. BJ's the one that's got to make this happen. But you guys, appreciate you hanging out with us on this Sunday. I get it. We all have stuff to do. I'm gonna go watch some NFL and get some food. And Sanford, you're gonna catch up with all these old Broncos, I guess.
No, I'm here to work.
Okay,
I'm here to work. I told BJ I'm trying to grow in my career, not grow in my ability to drink a 6-pack of beer. So that's the
all right, Ball Talk on BNN. We'll catch you guys. Appreciate you watching.
Let's go.